Yesterday may well go down as a day that lives in infamy for college athletics. A stunning ruling from a federal agency, the National Labor Relations Board, which oversees all the unions and is the federal agency that has the jurisdiction over unions, agreed yesterday that with some football players that filed a grievance with them from the Northwestern University, that they should be allowed to have a union, a college football players union. Here to react to that on the telephone this morning is our friend Jeff Compfer, the athletic director at East Carolina University. Good morning, Mr. AD. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Henry. How are you?
Are you as stunned by this decision as I was yesterday when I heard this?
Well, in this changing world of college athletics, nothing really stuns me anymore, but it certainly was a bit of a surprise.
Is this part of the overall strategy, do you think, Jeff, that now looks like there is a national strategy? I think that a lot of the things we're seeing happening right now are all part of this effort to try to force universities to start paying college athletes. Am I off base with that?
I don't think this particular effort is part of that, because if that were the case, the NCAA and several conferences have already come out in favor of providing student athletes with the full cost of attendance, which would increase their annual scholarships and provide an additional amount of dollars for them on an annual basis. So this is very different from that, because the NCAA doesn't support it. None of the major conferences have come out and supported this. So this isn't part of an overall effort. This is part of an effort from student athletes, I think, to try and this has been an ongoing effort. I mean, there already is an unofficial union of student athletes that has been out there for several years. There's other cases, the Ed O'Banion case, which is still out there and still part of the NCAA, which has yet to be decided. That rules about their ability to earn dollars for commercial endorsements and other things. So there's a lot of talk about that, but most of that you're hearing right now has been centered around student athletes' efforts, and most of those efforts have been regarding football.
Jeff Compfer, the Director of Athletics at ECU, on the telephone with us. Jeff, when you hear that this kind of thing is happening now, and you've got the federal government weighing in and saying that college athletes should be allowed to form unions, what crosses your mind about programs like ours here in Greenville at East Carolina?
Well, let me clarify a couple things first, because this really pertains to only private universities, because the National Labor Relations Board does not oversee state unionization laws, and so this would only apply to the 17 major universities that are playing football at the Division I level.
You mean like Duke?
So, yes.
Duke and Wake Forest, I guess, would come.
Duke, Wake Forest, yes.
But I mean, isn't this just going to open the door for public universities to be? I mean, how are they going to? When you're playing these schools, you're going. Sooner or later, there's going to be a fairness issue raised there as well.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not saying that it won't eventually get to the public university level, and I think that it could. Obviously, Northwestern is appealing this decision. This is a federal ruling that is based on not law, but administrative rulings. And so he's an administrative judge that made this ruling. He's not a federal judge. So if it ever gets to the courts, then case law precedent will take place, and other things will be looked at. And this isn't the first time that these types of things have come before case law with the nationally, and many times before, I mean, it really comes down, are they employees or are they student athletes? And when it's been taken to the courts and not an administrative ruling like this one was, it's always been ruled that student athletes are students and not employees.
What's really interesting about that is that the National Labor Relations Board said this, that universities are treating football players more that they're putting more emphasis on football for these players than they are academics. And
Right.
and they say that was a key part of the ruling, that because universities treat them more like employees, that their job is there to play football than student athletes, that they now think that we've hit that tipping point, and it's only fair that the students are they treat themselves like employees.
And I know their ruling is limited to football, but one of the basic reasons that I disagree with it is because at ECU and every other university that I've been associated with, we don't treat student athletes different based on the revenue potential of their sport, whether it's academic services or medical care. We provide the same level of support for all student athletes. And what they've done is they seem to have based this decision more on revenue potential and not on education. And
Yes.
for us, the educational part of it is much more important than the revenue potential.
It's crazy. It's I said that earlier this morning. College athletics has become more about money in the minds of
Right.
a lot of administrators and universities. I think as a result of that, what you're seeing now is fighting back, and the chickens are coming home to roost, to coin the old phrase. But Jeff, what's going to happen to schools like ECU? That's the question mark. I mean, this is not Ohio State, where the revenue and the television dollars are crazy, or even the University of North Carolina or NC State or Wake Forest or Duke. This is East Carolina, and even in going into the new conference, the amount of television revenue that ECU will receive is minuscule compared to the schools that are still in the old BCS.
Well, if you look at it, let's say that it is compensation-based and not scholarship-based, as the students at Northwestern seem to want. Well, their compensation would be approximately $76,000 a year based on summer school and full-time enrollment at that university. Here at ECU, we'd be looking at an in-state student at somewhere between $24,000 and $25,000 a year for their scholarship. And so there would be various levels of compensation potentially available. However, you have to take into account a lot of different things. And this really has more, it provides more questions than answers, because if they are employees, are those scholarships now taxed as full-level income? And what does that do for them?
Great point.
So,
are they going to have to start filing a tax return? I mean, that's
Exactly.
a great point.
And so there are a lot of questions to be answered. This is really an administrative ruling that is yet to hit, public universities. I think it'll be a long time, because this appeal, I think, will take a long time. And it'll give us plenty of time to look at all the potential issues that we will be facing if, indeed, it does move in this direction. I mean, I wonder how it's going to affect Title IX.
Exactly.
There's a lot of questions that have come to my mind as a result of this, and the potential for a dramatic shift in the way collegiate athletics is administered across our country.
I guess we should have, but I don't think anybody saw this coming. I think Trent's got some questions for you.
Yeah, good morning,
Sure.
Mr. AD. Should the NCAA be more concerned with Wednesday's ruling at Northwestern, or what is on the horizon this summer when the NCAA goes to trial in a case brought on by former UCLA standout Ed O'Bannon, which deals with whether players should be compensated for the use of their likenesses in video games and broadcasts?
Right.
Which is more damning right now, potentially, to the NCAA?
Well, I think both of them are. I think this one has more far-reaching impacts, because not every student athlete has that capacity to endorse commercial products or be on a video game. But this potentially has, I think, a broader reach.
Back to the question of how this may impact East Carolina University in the future. Jeff, do you think this is now going to create an environment where universities are, now that we've seen federal agencies weighing in on paying athletes, is this just going to create an environment where administrators like yourself are going to have to start coming up with a game plan to start compensating your athletes? And while you're answering that, are schools like ECU going to be able to compete?
I think we need to evaluate where the NCAA goes with that permissive legislation that is pending, and I think will be discussed more this summer. There's, the NCAA is reorganizing in many ways their leadership and legislative process. So there is likely to be in this governance restructuring the ability on a permissive basis for conferences to allow for additional compensation from whether it be stipends or full cost of attendance for student athletes. And I think we have to weigh what those costs would be for us at ECU, how the rest of our conference, the American Conference, will deal with that. And then we will do what's best for ECU in the long run. We want to play at the highest level. We want to be at the highest level. That's what our fan base expects, and that's what our university wants, and that's what this conference wants. So we need to figure out a way to keep up with them and to understand what that means for us financially. And we're in the process of looking at some of those things if that indeed does happen, and I believe that it will at some level. And so there are costs associated with it, and if our fans want us to be playing at the highest level, then I'm sure they'll step up and help us do that.
Man, the college athletics landscape is changing. You were an athletic director at an interesting time, my friend.
It really is. This is one of the most tumultuous times that I can remember in the business, and there are so many things pending out there right now, whether it be the governance restructuring for the NCAA, this case, the Ed O'Banion case, us moving into the American Conference, all those things. It's really quite a lot to take in, and we have to have good leadership, and we have to have good people looking out for us, and I feel very confident that at ECU we have that.
We're out of time, Jeff. That was good stuff. We appreciate you being willing to come on this morning. We'll see where this leads, and we appreciate your leadership at this important time at ECU. Good talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Henry. I'm still taking a lot of this in, but I appreciate you bringing this to the attention of our fan base and all of your listeners, and I hope you're doing well. And we start our Pirate Club Armadas tonight down on the Outer Banks, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing a bunch of Pirates all throughout the state of North Carolina.
All right, yeah, if you live down in Elizabeth City, Edenton, up that way, head over to the Pirate Armada tonight on the Outer Banks. Thank you, Jeff. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you, Henry.
ECU Athletic Director Jeff Kompfer. Man, what a story. They're going to, this has to lead, I think, to college athletes getting paid. It's going to be an interesting time to watch.